Marty, the best way I can answer that question is and I've used this term with you previously, and I used this phrase with Bill Ring and Denise DiMartini. When you're involved in activism, you're living on a ridge line, which is a euphemism, an analogy that's used very often in the Marine Corps. If you're walking on a ridge line, you're silhouetted by the setting sun, you make yourself a very easy target. And I think that the town of Gulfstream and others are just looking for something to pounce on. And that's why I think that it's very, very important when someone's involved in activism, either directly like I am or peripherally like your son is, that you have to be super circumspect. I think you have to be very, very careful about what you do because they don't have to have a legitimate reason to go after somebody. When you're using other people's money and you have the resources of the state behind you, you can put somebody through the meat grinder, and there's just nothing they can do about it. Try to defend themselves and hope for the best. And I think that's just sort of a classic abuse of power. I mean, it's been done to me multiple times for things that I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing there. Even after a very extensive, expensive investigation, the conclusion is he didn't do anything wrong. That didn't change the fact that for months my family was concerned about whether or not I was going to end up in prison for the rest of my life. It's completely unfair. And even when I didn't give them a valid reason to come after me, they just invented one. So I don't know what rattling around in the brains of people in Gulfstream as to why they decided to do what they want to do. Do I think there were problems at the Boyle Law Firm? Yeah, I do. That's why I left. Do I think there were problems at Citizens Awareness Foundation? Yeah, that's why I left. I think there were things that were, and I raised these issues with you repeatedly, and these are things that I think I addressed in my sworn statement to Bob Sweetapple, which I stand by. I think there were things that were just not very smart. That, sending out public records requests to Gulfstream and pounding them. I mean, I didn't even know the requests were going out. That wasn't smart. That was just a dumb thing to do. I think that you're giving them what you editorially. I think that the Citizens Awareness Foundation and the Boyle Law Firm and you gave them the excuse that they were looking for. That doesn't necessarily mean that there was any criminal conduct. It doesn't necessarily mean that there was even anything that was overtly unethical, although I had ethical objections. I think that this is a classic example of government overreach. We don't like you, you're pissing us off, we're in power, we're going to come after you. I think that's what the RICO was all about. That's why I thought it was ill-advised. I think the Florida League of Cities and its members engage in this, not all of them, but many of their members engage in this kind of stuff all the time. I see this frequently. I constantly do battle with the government. And I'm not anti-government. I'm super pro-government. The only thing worse than bad government is anarchy. I'm totally in favor of good government. But you can't have good government unless it's transparent and unless we can see what's going on. And we are going, as a society, we're going to reap the whirlwind because we are losing our ability to see what's really going on. And I think that the way Gulfstream has treated Chris O'Hare, and the reason I keep referring to him is I don't have any issues with him. I had issues with you. I had issues with Citizens Awareness Foundation. I had issues with the Boyle Law Firm. I have no issues with Chris. If all they had done was go after you and the Boyle Law Firm and Citizens Awareness Foundation, I could shrug my shoulders and say, well, I don't know. That would make it more ambiguous. But going after Chris the way they have, even after I have repeatedly, vociferously objected to it, in my mind, removes any doubt that it's just government abuse.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very sorry, Marty, if I wasn't clear about this. I think the town of Gulfstream is abusing its power. I think they have been reckless in the way that they've gone after Chris O'Hare. I think their conduct is reprehensible. They should never have done it. I thought I was really, really clear about that. I think the town of Gulfstream is wrong. They should not have treated Chris the way they did in the beginning over the issues of his house and the cop coming into his house without a warrant. all that stuff. I think that their reaction to Chris has been completely heavy-handed. I think it's government abuse. So I'm sorry I wasn't clear about that. I think any doubts that I might have about the conduct of Gulfstream are removed because of how they've treated Chris O'Hare. His hands are completely clean. I might not say that about you, but his hands are completely clean. Yet they've done to him what they've done. It's terrible. Now here's the really sad part. Imagine for a moment that Chris O'Hare wasn't a reasonably wealthy guy and didn't have significant means to defend himself. Imagine what they would do to some poor or minority person. They'd be screwed. I mean, they've destroyed his life. Imagine what they would do to somebody who simply couldn't fight back. And I think that that's what government agencies count on, is that we're bigger than you are. We have resources, which, by the way, don't really belong to us. We're stealing them from people. And we're going to abuse our authority and use other people's money to do it. Yeah, and again, I'm not as vociferous as I am on this issue. I don't have an axe to grind with Gulfstream. I will once again renew my invitation to Gulfstream and all the other members of the Florida League of Cities. If you'd like my help, I'm happy to give it to you free of charge and at my expense. I don't ask to be reimbursed for my gasoline or my meals or anything else. I'd love to help them fix their frickin' problem. It's about complying with the law and acknowledging and owning a culture that says we work for the people, these records belong to them, and we have to give them up. And instead, I think what agencies do, and I experienced this, and this isn't speculation, guys, because I was there. I witnessed it. It happened to me. Gulfstream clearly had a policy of egregiously, willfully, knowingly violating the Public Records Act, and I sued them over it individually. Their attitude was kind of like, it's our way or the highway. We get to make up the rules as we go. That's what got them into trouble. I mean, Gulfstream, regardless of what your motives are and regardless of what Chris's motives are, they made themselves an easy target for public records litigation because they kept breaking the law. They could have made this go away real simply by just doing the right thing, obey the law. And it's not like there wasn't somebody who was begging them to help them with that. I've been begging for years. The offer still stands. I don't expect my phone to start ringing anytime soon.